Nope.
It is.
Yeah. Because the difference is Monster Hunter International is like a whole new book series that I'm never going to be able to come back from. We're talking about the book series that you're actually on a podcast for, recording live right now in front of a studio audience. What, you think that I'm not paying attention?
You can't prove a single one of those things that you just said.
I see live in the corner, and when people are like, hit us up on Facebook or Reddit and
Facebook?
say,
Hit us up on Facebook.
hit us up on
Facebook.
Facebook.
On MySpace.
Quite.
On Zynga. I got a Zynga site. Go to my Zynga.
What a Freudian slip that was. So hit us up on Reddit. Tell us what a great show it was that we recorded.
So I mean, supposedly we have a Facebook page, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Dresden Files podcast. It's the Dresden Files podcast starring all your favorite Dresden Files podcast members.
No, you're not having a stroke. That's actually Ben's voice back on my hiatus.
Hooray, back from hiatus, like high fantasy. So we are going to be talking about Peace Talks, Peace Talks. No, it's not Peace Talks.
Well done. Talk about slips.
Yep. We're coming to you from the future, the year 2000.
Wait, what?
Yes.
What? Oh.
It is the distant future. It is the year 2000.
Oh, we are robots, right?
Yes. Good job.
And we're going to be talking. Is there any news? Oh wait, aren't there storyboards?
We just talked
and
about
stuff?
the Dresden drop. Yeah.
Yeah,
there are
well,
storyboards that nobody understands from the trailer.
That's not true. We identified map at least twice.
Sure. And presumably they're important because people actually storyboarded them so that they would be filmed. So it's not just randomly Dresden running down a corridor, but we don't know what it means yet. And there's people that we are not 100% sure to identify. So you should go look at them and add your own speculation to the Reddit comment or, stuff.
And then send us money and you can tell us what you think.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's good. It was almost subtle. Good job.
We're not going to read it, but we'll tell us.
We'll share and we'll just talk about it. It's like, yeah, maybe. No, that one's dumb. No, that was fun. That's it.
Awfully rude. Can we make sure we say their names when it's the dumb ones, please?
Yeah. If you're giving us money, I'm not going to call you dumb to your face. Just saying. So
I respect you enough to call you dumb to your face.
But we're going to swear. We're not kid friendly. We're going to spoil shit.
Yeah, ignore the baby that's actually joining us.
Well, I mean,
just because he's 6 doesn't mean he understands what's going on.
The thing about life is that the whole process is rated R. So I never understood that whole, think of the children. Where do you think he came from? I mean, seriously. So.
Yep.
Anyway, so we're on part 82 of Skin Game. I mean, Peace Talks, right? So part 7, we're pretty sure we're episode 103, right?
104?
Okay.
God, if I counted right. I hope I counted right.
Yeah. Somehow she can keep track for the Reddit postings, but not for the actual recording.
No, I fucked those up too before. Yeah.
Yep,
yes, the encyclopedia over there, keeping track of all my mistakes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he won't watch the freaking trailer, but he'll keep track of your mistakes in particular. So.
Well, one of those is important to the professionalism of this podcast, and the other one isn't.
Yeah. We're in chapter 41, yeah?
Yeah, What's-Her-Face is dead. And,
40.
40. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and
because
now we get to see Treasure.
Yes, it's the little sequel moment of Harry going but how could Nicodemus kill his own daughter? Oh, there's shiny gold. I forget about Deidre immediately.
Well, I mean,
to be fair, she sucked, so.
Yeah. Her life is kind of, it's not one of those in death, how everybody's suddenly an angel, right? So it'll be oh, she was she's dead, and it's probably a good thing for the world.
She's important to her daddy, and she's important to the paladin who's got misplaced priorities.
And to be fair, it is a lot of gold, and he does bring her up multiple times after this on this very episode of the Dresden Files podcast. So I mean, the next couple chapters. He deliberately brings her up every time she's brought up.
He deliberately brings her up twice. Mm-hmm. Sure. But he has this weird, breakdown moment of how could you possibly do that to your own kid? And then Shiny Things shoves that out of his mind.
Well, it's a new chapter. What do you want from him?
Justin, we can't hear you again. I know. So chapter
then you
40,
get the pop culture line of Fortune
shiny
and Glory
things.
from Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Happy.
Yeah. Even Michael was amazed by the shiny things that they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So Dresden and Asher, are going to check for magical defenses, and Valmont's looking for booby traps because they're all going to be very paranoid. And Harry wants to make sure that the Janoska can't randomly come up and eat him, so Michael's trying to go with.
And they do the Gandalf thing, or is there stuff intervening?
There's basically just a lot of description of how much jewels and gold and priceless art and everything. References to Smaug's treasure hoard.
Right. You might think that space is big, or you might think it's a long way to the chemist, but anyway. So,
Well, imagine his hoard with crippling levels of obsessive compulsive disorder and fantastic good taste. Because I have to imagine, because Hades is more than just the material wealth. Like Smaug was all gold and gems and jewels and this, and Hades has priceless paintings that you've never seen, the real version of the Mona Lisa or something down there.
Yeah, generally with a divinity theme.
Well, they mentioned, I don't know if that's just that particular section they went to, because they mentioned what was it? Wasn't it like a section off to the side where that particular mantle just happened to be Christianity themed, and that's the way they went?
I thought
I know it was a lot of treasure all around and a lot of paintings all around, and then it was kind of this like the area they headed towards, which had this like archway or something that was Christian themed.
I kind of thought the line was a description that generally the art had to do with divinity, whether it was Christian or not. So that like it could have had the Greek divine story arts, things like that too.
Well, I think the emphasis here, it just talks about a section on paintings of Renaissance painters and Italian Renaissance painters. And so that's why it's Christianity themed. The emphasis is on it's sorted kind of by type. So yeah, divinity theme throughout, but the divinity theme in this particular phrase, it looks like that's about showing images, theme of divinity, showing images of saints and the Virgin and Christ. So that's he's writing there about this section on the Italian Renaissance paintings, and so it doesn't technically describe the whole vault, but I feel like it's got kind of the implication that the whole vault is divinity themed. You have the two triple goddess statues in the middle, right? So there's that too. It's not just
either way. It basically leads into the Christian artifacts, so it makes sense that they'd be in this section. And if he organizes that well, it stands to reason, probably some kind of similar thing with other artifacts if there are any down there.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, bunch of shit.
Yeah, they do have the moment talking about the triple goddess of the crossroads, which is Hecate, what also happens to be all of the fairy queens that Harry has met. And at some point there, Michael is going like, hey, does that person look like Molly? And Harry tries to badly cover it. No, she just has one of those faces. Keep your head in the game. Yeah.
A great little moment played for laughs. One thing I did think was interesting is that the amphitheater had literally nothing but a little block of marble and then the 5 objects, right? But an amphitheater has interesting resonances because as we read in like the Symposium and other works, the big Greek productions and theater productions were all also civic and religious festivals. So that itself has a kind of divinity theme. And I wonder if there's a reason why there would be an empty amphitheater right in the middle. Is that for people to sit and look at it? What's the significance of having the amphitheater other than some kind of, I would hope maybe this is another stone table kind of thing where it's a location of power or something. And they're meant to be there's meant to be a big amphitheater for people to sit in and watch some drama unfold on the stage. So I don't know what
dead people watching a drama,
or well, I don't know, maybe like all the greater powers, and I'm thinking like in the Apocalypse trilogy, the BAT.
I mean, I could buy the symbolism aspect, but I don't. I have a feeling that because he went down there and he extended his senses out, and it was reserved for the objects themselves. Like the place itself
Sure.
wasn't radiating power. It wasn't like the stone table in that essence.
Oh no, absolutely not. But why would an amphitheater be in the vault? Like if it's an armory, that's
an
one
arena.
line that says maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what comes to mind is like, the Colosseum, right, would be an amphitheater if it wasn't gigantically fucking huge. But he knows that Dresden and Nicodemus are going to throw down. He might have prepared the space, so.
Rather than
That's true.
disturbing all
EG
the
said.
spirits.
You're right, exactly. What EG said, like who's going to come visit? The dude is literally a huge loner with a zoo of dead people. Who's going to make use of it, unless he just likes the aesthetic, or he's like, hey, I've got all this literally priceless, one of a kind, shit. Maybe I don't want the wizard slinging fireballs in a place that's going to light that up. I don't know. It's just a thought. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions Jim could go. I don't know what's really on his mind because it really just matters what kind of research he's done. He does a lot of research, but I don't know what kind of things he reads. So this is probably overreading it, but I think it does happen to work really well in the context, the themes of divinity and all that.
Sure.
So the 5 things we got. This is all known, right? The placard from the cross, crown of thorns, Holy Grail, Shroud of Turin, and the knife.
Spear of Destiny.
Yep.
Right. As seen on Evangelion.
Yeah.
But yes, 5 objects. Harry calls them weapons. Hades confirms later it's an armory. So
Right.
we're all going to be a big deal going forward someday. Probably not in peace talks because not everything happens in peace talks.
Is that your firm stance?
That not everything happens. Yes.
Just to counter Justin.
I mean, it's a little bit of hyperbole, but yeah. There's a lot of ground to cover in peace talks. Let's put it that way. So.
Well, I think part of the hyperbole is the hype, to be completely fair. Peace talks is...
Yes, the 5 years we've been waiting.
Hyperbole.
That's literally what I said, yes.
Yeah.
Hyperbole.
Didn't we ban you for puns once already today? Seriously.
So these objects have a ton of power. It's akin to sticking a penny in an electrical socket just by trying to sense what's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
So he had Valmont checking out the stone table to make sure that it was safe, and that's when he noticed that time had stopped when she wasn't responding to what he was saying. And then someone who's taller than Dresden shows up, which is weird because 7 feet tall plus, whatever. And he's like, yes, it's my armory, and snatches him away.
He's behind me, isn't he? Oh, God.
Yeah, that moment.
Well, one thing about the objects before you move on too fast. So there's 5. There's 5. And I think we mentioned before the thing about the there's always 5 points and the summoning circles and the circles and all this. BAT 5. And we've already seen gigantic summoning circles in Chicago. What if this is 5 points around the globe and it's a whole world or something? I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
it just it would be truly epic in scale, right? I mean, we don't know what they are. They call it a weapon, so your mind is going to be drawn immediately, like mine is. For example, to like some kind of literal weaponry, right? But it's a cup, dude. I'm not gonna I'm not Riddick. I'm not gonna like stab you to death with my teacup. Like it's a placard. It's a crown of thorns. Like some of these things are not physical manifestations. Like some of them will hurt you, don't get me wrong, but they're not exactly what you'd relate to as a weapon. So yeah, they've got to be symbols, presumably for a circle, or they get metamorphized, transmorgified somehow. It's been way too long since I've been in Sunday school, so the thought that came to mind though was like the armor of God, right? Because you've got the sword of truth, you got the boots of whatever, that sort of thing. Like I said, I'd have to go look at it again and see how many components are usually named with that, because 5 sounds right, but I can't name them all at the moment. So it makes me wonder if like he puts on the crown, but really it's a helmet because magic and, stuff like that. So who knows? But that's part of what's compelling about all this, right? Is like, once they pick up the things, they know it's a weapon, it's put in an armory, all this stuff. But, it's clearly not just like a blasting rod or a bazooka or a tank or something. There's gonna be some other transformation or some other use. Maybe it has to do with like similar to like the bloodline curse, right? Like those were all artifacts that helped them focus, like a hyper focus. So is he using it for summoning? Is he using it to route energy? Are they somehow pushing the outsiders even further away? Like there's so many different ways to go with that. I gotta imagine in his crazy outline he knows already, but it's one of the big unanswered questions in my mind. So
weapon is just colloquial. You're not going to beat someone to death with a placard, but if it shows you their true name, for instance, you use that against them, that's a weapon. If the Crown of Thorns turns out to be something like a precursor to the Thorn Manacles, but on a scale that you can power down someone on like Mab's level, that's going to be able to be used as a weapon in that respect. It just depends on what they do and what it turns out to be. And yes, they'll probably be part of some sort of ritual altogether, and that will be a weapon in and of itself. So there's like 6 different ways it'll probably go.
We already saw the other Shroud of Turin being used basically as a battery for that plague curse, right? Any one of them could be used as a battery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it too. But what the hell is so big that you need 5 deity level batteries, so that's, basically if it is a weapon and it is used in a circle, it's a Death Star. It's not like, sure, the Death Star is a weapon in the sense that you can blow up planets with it. Like that's, to me, that's the level of power we're dealing with, because think about how powerful a fake Shroud of Turin was, let alone the real thing, let alone his 4 brothers and sisters, so.
Yeah. All right. So Harry gets shanghaied by Hades, and he is in an office room, basically like a den, and stuttering and is very scared. But they have wine and they sit down, and Hades basically offers him guest rights of like, you are welcome in my realm, which means that Hades can't hurt him.
Yeah, despite the fact that he's got a crown of Mordite on.
Yeah.
Because he's that badass.
Yes, tiny
and a big
things of
three-headed
Mordite.
dog.
Giant dog. It's a very cute dog.
You don't know that.
What? I don't know it's cute?
Yeah.
He's always cute when it's your dog. But...
It's a dog. I think it's cute. I'm very simple.
I have chihuahuas.
Oh, Fluffy.
Oh, that's true. I don't like chihuahuas.
Yeah.
There's always exceptions.
Okay, you're right. Okay,
yeah, but chihuahuas aren't dogs. They're rats. They just bark.
Well, if you put a leash on it, it's a dog.
Oh man, that opens up a whole can of worms we're not getting into right now.
In Florida, they have giant Gambian rats. You can go get one and put a leash on it. And
didn't you ask me for this? Like, yeah,
I might have.
Yeah.
Send her an alligator.
Right. Let me go check the pond. He might be there. So.
There's a nice little detail when Hades starts talking to Harry. He calls him by the correct title. A nice little attention to detail. The Sir Harry, Knight of Winter, be welcome. So, rather than like Harry Dresden or Harry, and it only uses one name, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Only uses.
Why wouldn't he use the title when he knows that this is Mab's orchestrated?
I was going to say he's there in that capacity.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying it's a nice attention to detail rather than a list of titles like Warden of the White Council or any of these other things.
He's talking about the one that's most relevant. He is on Mab's orders.
Exactly right. So that's what I'm saying. It's a nice detail.
He also references capital W Warden too, doesn't he? So.
Well, when he's comparing him to himself, where he's like, we are wardens of these nation states of nasties and yada yada yada.
But the formal address, and during the formal address, it's
the old school. They're so polite. So
yeah.
Yes, just like they'll be so polite in peace talks when they're all together in a room
drinking tea.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing happens. Nobody dies except Mother Murphy dies of a heart attack. and everyone's sad. And Mab goes and visits and cries a single tear.
Wow.
That's my prediction for Peace Talks.
Well, at least you'll be wrong.
Right. I can't wait to see that come out.
Right. So Harry asks essentially about the passage of time, making sure that nothing is happening that Hades doesn't know about. And Hades says, I know exactly what you've been doing for the past several days.
Right.
They have kind of a discussion about how Hades is treated in media, like all the TV and the movies. Like paints him as a villain, and Harry says that you're not a villain, you're just the dude doing his job when everyone else decides to fuck around. Literally.
Right. He's like one of the few that isn't turning into a duck and getting his, stuff on. So
Yeah. Harry has a point. How jaded do you have to be to turn into a bull?
How bored and all powerful do you have to be in your
I
time?
do not deny anything you say, but they are, after all, family.
Right.
Well,
What a class act. Hades, top supporting character. He's like one scene. He's the Hannibal Lecter of this series. He's fantastic. He shows up for almost no time, and I love him.
Right. Oh, no, for sure. I mean,
Better
like,
than Fairfax.
oh, yeah. Like Fairfax is
he was
interesting
early.
in his own regard, but yeah, like just the whole thing, like them talking about the mythology, and then, I mean, to us, it's mythology, right?
Mhm.
And then the whole like, oh, by the way, that one time where they like led her on a marriage chase, that was our honeymoon present.
Yeah, like to everyone else, this is bygone era. To them, it was Sunday brunch.
right.
Yeah. I still
Odin
would
was
like
the
him
same
to be
way.
voiced by James Woods.
Everybody that can slam
Definitely.
Harry into the floor on his face just by thinking about it usually makes a pretty good impression.
True.
Pharaoh did, Odin did, Hades
Mab.
can, but he doesn't because he's nicer.
Elda Scruff, all
Yeah.
the favorites.
Yeah. Anyone who can show up and basically one-shot someone, it's just like, no, okay, we'll enjoy them.
I do like how confusing Katie's description is of like Hecate as a person versus Hecate as apparently the 6 people that we know them as, with the fairies, queens, and all that.
Well, because once upon a time she was one thing and now she's 6.
Right.
It's very simple.
Trinity is weird, man.
Trinity is 6.
Well,
Double
no,
Trinity.
Trinity is 3 and 1, In this case, it's
Because they're
Hecate,
two,
6 and 1.
Each queen is the equal and opposite of the same coin, so they are
Right.
one thing together. And there's 3 of them when they all combine. When
They're
they all
like Voltron.
refuse and turn into
Fairy
Super
Voltron.
Saiyan. No, it's Dragon Ball Z. They're gonna refuse and they're gonna,
Oh,
Summon a
no.
dragon? Oh,
In a billion years, Mab and Titania will never do the fusion dance.
No, they'll
like,
explode.
right.
They would literally explode if they tried to do it. Unless they could hold it off for one glorious flashbang and then they just destroy all the outside with them type deal. That's the way
Yep,
it
this
goes.
is just going to get weirder in my head. So we need to, because now I'm thinking about how the artifacts come into it, and like the giant Voltron with the Spear of Destiny, and no, okay, yeah. So I mean, he's painfully aware of this is going on. He tells Dresden that it was orchestrated and that he's, it's an armory and whatever. They have a cute little discussion about how Kerberos is spotted in Greek, so. Fluffy is literally named Spot.
yes.
What else comes out of this?
Harry realizes what's going on. They talk about Deirdre's fate and what it will be.
And
Oh, right.
the whole
How she's
thing
not
is
going to get away with
basically
it.
an audition,
Mhm.
because Hades' job is not to keep it away from everyone, but to make sure that the inept are not able to get to it.
Right.
So that's why everything has to happen in this structured way. They have to have it as a break-in because he can't let them have it. But in all the time that Harry is trying to figure out what is Hades trying to do, Hades basically says, that's not the most relevant question. So Harry just eventually asks, like, so why did you bring me here? Because I wanted to shake your hand.
Right. And wish you good luck, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
What do you say to that?
right. Like, oh,
Thanks.
yeah, right. I am in big trouble.
Mhm.
So,
It's like, why does Hades want to shake my hand? I'm a dumbass. I liked that moment.
So
Odin
here's some,
likes some people just like him.
right.
here's something I'd be curious about. Would be a legitimately interesting short story. It says relatively few new shades come into my realm these days. Foremost amongst them or those who perish at the gates, particularly at the gate of blood. I want to hear about some of, I don't know, it's kind of a throwaway line, but I am really interested about who managed to attempt this before, or who tried, who even just tried, and what did they get away with, if anything?
But right. Kind of the implication, especially with Nicodemus's fear, is that people have made it to the blood, to the gate of blood, and then whoever was quote unquote the inside man or whatever you want to call it just didn't open it. So I don't know.
They were going to be the inside man.
Right.
Oh, sure.
So
that's true.
I'm sure a fair number of attempts failed there, and then but I'm definitely curious, like, who's got the chutzpah to be able to pull that sort of thing off to even get that far, because it's impossible not to draw the parallels between the Gate of Blood and Vormir, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where one of the more compelling theories that I saw was that the whole Hel and Odin thing, the reason why he stopped and they had a falling out is because the second power stone that he found was the Soul Stone, and when he went to Vormir and realized he was going to have to sacrifice his daughter, he blinked and stopped, whereas Thanos didn't. So I've seen that theory, and I thought that was very compelling, is that Odin was not that bloodthirsty. And so you can imagine, like, somebody gets to the Gate of Blood and they're like, wait, really? Like, this is what I got to do? Hard pass. But you're curious about who in the world, like, theoretically, we've had glimpses of most of the powerful guys. Obviously, Goodman Gray comes out of hardly anywhere. There have got to be other secret people, but, like, does Dracul try to get in? Like, who else is operating on this level or even higher? I doubt Fairvex is running around trying to do it. He's got a job. So who are these uppity mortal types that would try this sort of thing?
But it doesn't have to be mortals, right? I mean, like, so the Red King could have probably tried to do something like this, and he has the whatever fucker Temple Virgin person.
Sure.
Like, she would have, that one, yeah. She would have probably, when you have people that you've been, like, mentally brainwashing for years and years, why would it fail at the Gate of Blood?
Taking this a step.
He makes a distinction that these here to not to keep them away from mortals, just the incompetent ones. I don't think Dean's like the Red King could use immortals to do it, but I don't, that seems to me the kind of thing that would extra precautions would be taken against. Like, this is all also still done with Hades' essential blessing. Mm-hmm. He's not helping, but he's not actively interfering either.
So you think Hades would interfere if anyone wasn't mortal-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to imagine it would be, at the very least, even if they got through everything, but they were like, I don't know, Ebes. I'm pretty sure he would just be like, all right, Spot, eat them. Right. They wouldn't get out.
So along those lines, in the who would do this and who have we been seeing and whatever, you're mentioning the Red Council, but take it a step further, they're puppet masters. So would Cal and Komori or somebody in the Black Council try it? And how did that work out? Because they're the only other ones in recent times that I could see trying to pull that off.
And they're necromancers.
Well, the other thing about
also a good point.
They could probably
if they can control a spirit in the underworld, then all they have to do is just control it to lift the gate, right?
They're probably the only one. That's why they might be the only other ones that could even bother undertaking this, because when you're getting to the Gate of Blood, this is the Denarians, even amongst themselves, are traitorous, backstabbing assholes. The only reason this worked is because of the really screwed up unique relationship Nick has with Deirdre. When you're on the bad guy team, you can't trust one way or the other who's going to do what to you. You think you're working along with these people, and then they try and push you into the salamander, or they trip you up at the Gate of Ice, or they just don't fucking pull the lever when you're at the Gate of Blood. So all these guys that play for Team Bad probably aren't even going to bother attempting it, because they're never going to be able to. You'd have to be on the level of narcissism that Nicodemus is to even think you could control the elements enough to get this far, let alone have someone get you to the finish line. And even it doesn't even work out for him. He doesn't get the artifact he really wants, and his fucking daughter dies.
Well, and on top of that, I don't think that anybody more powerful than the current team could even really attempt it either. Just because there's that whole principle in the Dresden verse of the more powerful, the more restricted
Right.
you are.
Mab can't
So
just walk in and
Anduriel,
turn everything off and get the shit. That doesn't work.
the Anduriel guy couldn't do it, but Nicodemus could. Goodman Gray can do it because he's this weirdo something. The Genosqua is the only really magical beast. Everyone else is a mortal of some kind, like a human mortal of some kind.
Well, he's a
So-
Bigfoot, and I think we count those as mortal enough, right?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Right.
I in my mind, I always picture him as like an angry ant Groot thing, but
Yeah,
you're right.
I mean,
he's
everyone down
there
there's essentially got some version of a soul or free will that they can tap into.
right, and anybody who doesn't wouldn't be able to do it. Whereas, even though Harry's kind of operating on the level of he's under the auspices of Winter. He is the mortal under the auspices of Winter. And that's literally the job of the night. So the interesting thing is you couldn't have like one guy just do it unless you're talking Kemmler level baddie magical master, and then you'd still have to have the devotee.
Like you
to
probably
sacrifice.
couldn't. Molly probably couldn't have even been on this strike team.
Right.
No, not at this point.
You know, in the cold days, yeah, sure, but now, nope. She's got her own shit she's got to do.
So,
Yeah.
Is Hades in on not just the audition? Is he in on the scam that, as we hear, get revealed at the very end between
The
Mab and
Revenge between
right.
Mab and Nicodemus.
Is he in on that half of it, or
Well,
is
he
he
seems
literally
to at
just?
least know enough to know that Mab is doing something.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
Yeah, I
might,
don't know if
since
he
at the end they
cares.
had a discussion, like,
Right.
you know, when they're talking with Mab and Marcone, that, you know, you set it up with Hades to do this. Whether or not he knows point by point, hey, Mab wants to screw over Nicodemus in particular is, maybe, but it's not as important as knowing that this thing has to go down this way.
yeah, like if anything, I could see the conversation going something along the lines of like, oh, hey, I'm coming for the weapons. And he's like, wait, now? Why now? Well, okay, so it's going to be relevant soon. And also I've got an opportunity to really fuck with somebody who needs it. Say no more. You know, like Hades knows enough about what's going on that, you know, it doesn't factor into it for him per se, just so much as like, you know, it's what's going on.
Well, and then also Mab is not, maybe she's not family because she's the fairy version now and not Hecate, but she's like an in-law. There's some kind of relation between the Greek gods and the fairy queens.
I mean, they
Clearly.
clearly have some kind of relationship. So yeah,
At a minimum, they would have a mutual respect,
right.
being that they're on the same general level of including
Team reality.
power.
Yeah, team reality.
Right.
So
Okay. So the last thing that they were talking about was Deirdre and her fate. And Hades says she will stay in my keeping. And Harry Six says, like, wait, she gets to just skate on all the things that she did. And Hades gets really mad.
Right.
No, he will.
Maybe should revisit the classics if you
Mhm.
think that I'm going to let her off light.
Yeah. And then it's like, are you ready? I guess it better be Blackfire. And he's transported back to Valmont saying that the stone table is basically fine. There's no rigging device that she can see. And he's like realigned as to what he has to do, grabs all of the artifacts that aren't the Grail and tells Valmont to put him in her pack, which he only half filled with diamonds anyway.
And he puts the Grail in the middle to make it look like there weren't 5
Mhm.
artifacts. So
Yeah, Valmont has this weird like hesitation of like, I'm only in it for money and revenge, but she realizes that she's taking things away that Nicodemus would want and balks at it anyway until Dresden tells her to trust him, essentially.
Well, he says, when has he ever done wrong by her?
Yeah, but
If
it's
we're
just
going
like,
by scorecard, she screwed him over a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
it seemed weird to me when she should be able to see how that is the revenge.
right.
Well, what would she know? I mean, as far as they only know he's going for the cup. What is that to her? I mean,
But she knows what the other artifacts are. She recognized the shroud.
right when it's up close and brought to her, but she's just giving it a halfway glance and then she's looking at glittery shit. I mean, what does she care about a bunch of religious artifacts that she can't even feel the power
She was
of?
the least impressed with the glittery shit.
Well, she was the most methodical, going for value that she can get based on
Value
what
per
she
pound,
carry
right.
and what she could fence it for and all that shit. You know, like if she, you know, things like emeralds are probably more valuable, but they're a lot rarer and they're probably a lot harder to move. So, okay, well, I'm just going to load up on diamonds. That's easy.
What I think is interesting in this interaction is that Anna, he kind of does the trust check to Anna, which has been running through this whole story, and we'll see it at the. We saw it with Deirdre, but we'll also see it at the end and at the beginning with the, the lackeys that Nicodemus has with their tongues cut out, with some faces. So the squires, right? And just even though she's the career criminal, Harry just implores her, literally just as a personal favor. Anna Vollman is an unsung hero here, just because he only holds on to one. She gets 3 of them, and then the cup he puts in the middle, back in the middle. So she takes most of the objects of power, and just simply on an issue of trust, which I think is an interesting little moment. We see that throughout the book.
It's like
Well, she's the Frodo of this story. She's the ring bearer. So
I won't go that far.
Okay.
I mean, Frodo failed and sucked at the end, so that
you
doesn't
dare
apply at all.
steal from me, burglar?
Yeah, she can be Bilbo. That's fine.
Right.
Okay.
So everybody meets up with them, and they have a nice chat.
Yes, they all, except for Michael, have things that they've been carrying in bags full of jewels, probably. And Harry has the Spear of Destiny in his left sleeve that is next to his aluminum brace broken wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts taunting Nicodemus because Nicodemus is wary of picking up the Grail, worried about booby traps, as you should be. And then so Harry picks it up and starts saying, "Hey, about your daughter that you seem to love so much."
I mean, I really want you to just read it because it's so amazing. Like,
Starting where?
I mean,
Like,
you could start with right before. I don't know how they said it in your time.
Okay.
So,
All right, let me find it.
it's sick, but it's fucking amazing. It is like some of the best work in the series, in my opinion.
So he picks up the Grail and it's like, "This is what you came for, right? This is what your daughter died to give you. Hey, if I dropped it, do you think it would break? Because the gravity seems to be higher in the underworld." All right. You said she was the only one you trusted back where you murdered her. Call me crazy, but it seems to me that it's going to be a long, cold, empty place for you for the next few millennia. I mean, talk about having an empty nest. That coin in your pocket must feel pretty heavy right now. Nicodemus is breathing heavy and about to lose control. And Harry is like, "This is the best plan ever." Must have been really difficult for someone so used to wielding power to realize that as a result of the life you'd led, there was no one who'd willingly come with you, willingly let you slaughter them, willingly pull that level for you after you had. I bet you chewed over that problem for years trying to crack it. Did it hurt when you realized what you were going to have to give up? Right, the funny part is that bit about her being protected from hell. You brought her here and expected that she wouldn't get her sentence. Have you read Greek mythology? Isn't Nicodemus Greek anyway?
Yeah, I mean, technically.
Oh, he's
So-
Roman.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
Greek name, but
Right.
yeah, everyone spoke Greek on that side of the empire. So
He was what, a Roman tax collector, I think, is the
Something
info we
like
get
that.
from wordage him.
Yeah. All right. Do you know the kinds of things Hades sentences people to endure? At least hell is, by all reports, more or less non-discriminatory. Down here, they get personal. Did you just try to give her a comforting lie at that last minute just to make sure she pulled the lever? Nicodemus says, "Give me the Grail or I am going to kill you." And Harry's like, "Do you remember the first time you saw her, the first time she looked at you? Do you remember that change, that shift when the whole universe suddenly tilted? Do you remember looking at her and knowing how you would never, ever quite be the same person? Do you think the cup will do that for you? I don't know how you said it back in the day, but I'll bet you anything her first word was data."
Yeah.
and he said in an utterly flat, utterly dead voice, "Kill them."
After
That
he had a
was-
single tear.
There's the single tear.
And just
See
like
this
in
precedent?
proven guilty, he went a little bit too far.
Right.
I
Game
love the
over.
ending of this chapter because Harry's like, "I win?"
Right.
That ended the game right there. Oh, it's an interesting.
Yeah.
He says game
No.
over in the next chapter.
He doesn't have to play nice anymore. At least obligation done. Gave him the
Right.
cup, and Nick
Yeah.
said kill him.
It's not It's not next chapter though, right? Because the next chapter is the explanation to be like, so I've been running a
So-
gambit.
No, not
This
yet.
Oh,
next
is it?
chapter is
Okay.
essentially the revealing of who all the bad guys are, and then there's a chapter revealing of Gray, and then blah
Gotcha.
blah blah.
Gotcha.
So chapter 43 is basically starting of like, and now we start like lining up to fight.
Who's on whose side?
Yes.
Right.
So like Janoska's like starting to fight, Nicodemus starting to fight, Michael and everything. Let's see. They're because of the blackness and the ability for Anduriel to work in the shadows, Harry does a Lumio spell for light and making sure that it can't touch them. Starts throwing ice balls, essentially, because even though the Janoska can ground magic, he still has to deal with physical ice if it hits him.
Mhm.
Uses it very well.
Smart.
Michael basically causes a moment of stopping and talking and begging Nicodemus to turn away from his past.
It's so good. I love it. It's the best chapter in the series. Just this interchange, this exchange is almost as good as the one you just read.
Michael is look at yourself, look at your fury and your pain, look to where they've led you, man, your own child. And Nicodemus looks like he's about to waver. Yeah. Nicodemus eventually asks, is this what you believe this is, my chance at redemption, for forgiveness? And Michael's trying to implore him for peace. But Nicodemus continues of, you think you know about commitment, about faith, but yours is a child's daydream besides mine. Michael asks him, please don't let them win. And Nicodemus says, I do not dance to the fallen's tune. We may move together, but I play the music. I set the beat. For nearly 2,000 years, I have followed my path through every treacherous bend and twist, through every temptation to turn aside. And now they follow my leadership, not the other way around.
The next
Delusional.
season. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Delusional.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
since there's a bunch more infighting between them than just about anyone other than like the council.
So these last two sentences here, or three sentences, is actually here's an issue. It sounds a lot like Friedrich Nietzsche. Have you guys ever read Nietzsche?
A little bit.
Oh yeah,
Not for
turn
long.
aside from my path. I have blazed it. I am my path, and it is me. There is no turning aside. It's like that's almost existential. It's like I was rereading that again. That struck me as exactly the perfect thing, not just for Archie Leon to say, but it very much fits that whole drum of the man leading the fallen angels, and I blaze the path. I am my own will. The eagle in Nietzsche, the eagle eagles. It does not think about what it does. It just is what it does. Although for Nietzsche, it's supposed to be more of a joy. This is more of that kind of nihilistic thing. Nietzsche wouldn't like that, but it's phenomenal.
I think
So-
the words
so
are
tremendous.
similar, but the intentions and therefore the meaning is different. But let's go on.
Okay.
Michael says things about Nicodemus being alone, and Nicodemus says, like, do you think I am alone? And the Janoska turns into Ursiel. And then it gets better when Asher turns into Lashiel, and Harry goes to Michael, like, we really need to talk about the church and their ability to keep coins.
Yeah, the vending machine.
Yes.
He's like, yes, I'd like 2 denarians back, please.
And Michael's like, this is not the time. Okay. There's some conversation between Harry and Lashiel. And Lashiel calls her, hello, lover.
Mhm.
Lover? What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
At least Michael's reaction is,
Hell hath no fury, yada, yada, yada.
yeah.
Mhm.
When Harry says, like, it's complicated, Michael gets all worried. Says, oh, dear. And then it gets even more confusing when she starts talking about a child. Yeah. And Hannah Asher's pissed at him because of the Fellowship of St. Giles and the fact that they had all died because of changes.
Right.
More collateral damage.
Mhm.
How dare you wipe out an entire nation of people eating monsters
Yeah.
with a little bit of collateral damage
Maybe even a
for
lot of
people-
collateral damage, but
for people who are on the verge of being people eating monsters.
mhm.
So,
Well, it's more the reason he did it. He did it for selfish reasons.
They did it for
I
his
mean,
child.
ish. So
It's still
this
selfish.
is the classic. This is, to me, like, it's breaking it down to a classic like wrestling for a gun moment, right? He didn't bring the gun to the fight. He didn't load the gun. Fuck you for shooting the bad guy with the gun that he brought to the gunfight and saving your own skin.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it being a bloodline curse kind of like takes everything else out. But it's like, you know, there were unanswered questions on, you know, he might have saved the entire White Court, you know, or at least Thomas and his bloodline somehow, or, you know, like, he obviously saved Ebenezer as well, which was the ultimate target, therefore protecting more mortals in the long run than the Fellowship of St. Giles could ever hope to do.
Mhm.
You know, like, it's one of those, like, it's one of the problems that I have with, like, Civil War for Marvel. Like, I know I always like to draw these parallels and whatever, right? But everybody always likes to get mad at the hero for the collateral damage that happened when he's stopping the villain, right? That's one of the new things in vogue, where it's like, you know, how dare you suit up and, you know, stop that thing by blowing up the bomb in the city and killing hundreds of people instead of millions of people. You know, you're responsible for those hundreds of lives. Cool. Next time I'll just not suit up. And what do you think's going to fucking happen? You know, like, that's the mentality that I don't get. So, like, yes, it's a little bit utilitarian. It's a little bit, we're weighing, it's a train game, right?
Mhm.
We're weighing the one person versus the seven. Yep. Harry sacrificed the Fellowship of St. Giles. That's a bummer. They were allies, obviously. It's not like he weighed that in the moment and said, oh yeah, fuck those guys in particular, I'm going to throw them under the train so that we can get the Red Court. It was just, we got to stop the Red Court, and, you know, a byproduct of saving myself here. But, like, imagine not having the White Council, even as defunct and crazy as they are. Which would you rather have, the White Council in its dysfunction, or the Fellowship of St. Giles that barely has any real power to begin with? You know, like, it's a pretty easy choice. It sucks, but, you know, like, ultimately it's the better choice no matter how you spin it. The only other choice Harry had was to lay down and die, which definitely the Fellowship of St. Giles was going to get wiped out, because, again, most of them were getting ganked by Martin's dudes, not Harry and the Bloodline Curse. So she doesn't know that. She doesn't care, because she's the bad guy and she's going to use it for points against Dresden. But the Fellowship of St. Giles was dead anyway, is another take on that, because Martin had made sure to seal their fate with his being like a triple agent, you know. So he screwed both of them, you know, both the Red Court and the Fellowship of St. Giles. But yeah, like, they were, you know, taking it a step further, thinking about it, they were dead anyway. Harry just finished pulling the trigger and then whatever. But you know that Lashiel manipulated her into that. You know,
when she starts talking about it, it does seem, it kind of feels a little bit of a stretch. Maybe not that much, but a little bit, that Lashiel is just trying to drive into Asher being crazy mad because she needs it to be.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Asher's magic, like most warlocks, is, you know, emotion driven primarily. So, you know, fire is also passion, and she's going to be able to draw more of that power, you know, from being manipulated like that. And she's the seducer anyway, right? She's going to tell you what you want to hear and what gets her what she needs, which is blasted in this case, you know. So
yeah. One thing I thought Harry was a bit risky in is that what he said to Asher, like, if I had known it would happen, I'd have done it anyway, because if I hadn't, Maggie wouldn't have survived the night. He actually used her name.
Right.
Yeah, which, I mean, maybe Nicodemus wasn't paying attention, or maybe he did, and that's how he realized that Maggie was Dresden's.
Right. Well, yeah, because we get that a little bit later too, right? The whole, like, you know, you said that and only a father could have said that, you know. Yeah. And I'm actually, it does bring up a point. I am kind of surprised he didn't know that already. You know, it's like, he's got to be watching Michael's Place, right? And they just adopted a new kid. Where did that kid come from? Nobody knows. She just sprouted out of the ground.
And like, why does she have Harry's dog? That Nicodemus does definitely know.
Right.
Well, watching their place, yes. But he also says, and I tend to believe him, that he didn't really give a shit about Michael anymore. He says it earlier. You should have just stayed away. As far as I was concerned, you were, you know, because he can't get him there. His kids walk around with angelic protection. I mean, Yeah, we see he's still able to get to them, but he actually has to want to, and he's been planning this shit for a while.
And he wants to enough to make a bargain with Michael to walk out of his gate in order to release Murphy and Dresden.
Right, but that was opportunity. He was there.
Mm.
If they were doing it downtown, it's not like, hey, he would have called him up and been like, hey, Michael, walk out of your gate and I'll let them through. They were on his doorstep, so, and he came outside. Opportunity.
Yeah. No one's exactly rational.
Which is all Butters' fault.
But whatever.
Fuck him.
Really, Asher should be mad at Butters. That's the end result of this. So,
I'm
no,
okay with
okay,
that. No, I'm perfectly happy with that. As long as she burns him to a cinder.
right. And that's not going to happen. Spoilers, but anything else from the conversation before the duel? Because the duel was one of the other clever moments in his thing. So,
pretty much no. They just kind of have a really loose triangle position around Michael and Harry, who have back to back, and then Gray comes in carrying a pack that looks like Velmont's, and
right.
there's
And then
that
game over.
exchange. Yeah, I love Gray though because he says like, "I never pretended to be anything but a villain."
Right.
Like, maybe you should have been the one that hired me.
Well,
Right.
and yet he's confused because he sees Gray. Gray sees Michael, or Gray sees Harry very, very angry, and it's that code. It's their code. He uses the code,
Right.
Yeah.
but it's in reverse because it's usually it would be Gray saying asking the question after saying the word wizard,
Mhm.
and then ask the question. But this one he just leaves it at wizard, and then Harry asks the question. And then
Well,
gets
so Gray says should have seen this one coming, wizard, kind of to give it away, and then
Mhm.
Harry doesn't have an indicator to Gray, so he just asks, "Did you really kill her?" And no particular reason not to.
Right.
Well, it's the first word is the answer. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, no.
Right.
But no, normally it would be Gray would have asked the question after saying the word wizard, and then Harry would have answered. So they had an interesting little twist here. And then also, this whole on the second reread, all this whole exchange with Gray. Once Gray shows up, it's all carries a whole nother meaning. It's
Yes.
phenomenal. Harry grinds his teeth. You think you understand why Harry's grinding his teeth, but it's really just he's trying to figure out when to play his trump card. It's not.
He's trying to
it's a
keep from laughing because he knows he has one.
Right.
It works. It works.
Mhm. So he says game over, and then they rewind 3 days.
Right. So, yeah, freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got into this position.
Right?
but, yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay.
And
So-
Gray's literally just smiling the whole time because he knows it's so wonderful. Anyway, okay.
So rewinding 3 days, Mab is
Okay.
visibly pissed off at Nicodemus because everything is frosting over wherever she's looking at it. In the limo, Harry's futzing with his new earring, and they're going to meet someone. And they go to McNally's and meet Kringle. Because even like Harry probably said Vaterung, but Mab summoned Kringle because they're the same person legally speaking, but not.
Well, she, as Vaterung explains, right, or Kringle in this case explains, she can't summon Vaterung. She can only summon Kringle. So,
Yes, Kringle has the obligation to show up to help the Winter Knight if she commands it.
right.
It is weird, though, when you recognize that they're all different. The same person with just different makeup and name.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Gets
to
you-
Harry,
it's a-
they're
it's a
functionally
built-in
the same.
loophole.
It's a
That's-
what?
you know.
I mean, it's a built-in loophole.
Right.
That's the whole point. Vaterung says it himself. Little game of protocol.
So they start talking about the problem that Harry has, and he's asking for advice, essentially. Kringle eventually says that he's doing this as a belated Christmas present because it's really hard to get to Demon Reach over the holidays. It's nice to know that he actually has to try sometimes.
Well, we know he has to try later.
Well, he
Find
was
that
able
out.
to do it later. But
Well, he says the it's not a tough. It's a tough delivery. Not that he couldn't do it if he put his mind to it.
that is true. So it was a tough delivery, and Mab probably said, "Don't go."
Well, I mean, you find
Save
out
the
later
favor
when
for
Matt says
later.
you're participating in the holiday this year, so he clearly wasn't last time around.
That's true.
So It's only if you're actively like, hey, I'm making this bike as a Christmas gift because it's Christmas, and so now I have to give you shit. If you're on a spooky island by yourself with talking to no one, then I don't have to do anything for you.
Well, it's partially a because of the ways where the way opens up. That's why I think it's a tricky delivery.
Yeah,
Part of it, probably, but I'm
he
sure
can handle it.
I'm sure Kringle has a few things he can ride to get there.
And he could just physically go. I mean, he could. The whole lake was frozen over. He's got a winter mantle. I mean, he can just like walk there.
Yeah. All right.
But
Harry says, I'm just going to assume you know everything I do. That's probably a good start. And he lays out what he thinks Nicodemus is going to do, which is pretty much right. He's assembling a crew, and at least one of them is going to be a plant, probably with a coin on them. Then he'll betray, and he wants to do it first because he's a control freak. But then he was hoping that he was basically going to be wrong and Kringle could find a point of flaw, and he didn't. Everything is pretty much right. So he basically says, get another person on your own side, which happens to be great because he knows of 4 people that Nicodemus can try to contract for one specific thing. The rest of them are contracted already.
well, one of them was arrested, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
Or
It's
detained.
probably some, like, they were not available, and he knows Nicodemus is going to wait until the last possible
2 of them
moment.
are under contract, and the third is presently detained.
Ah.
I would not be surprised, due to the machinations of these particular people he's talking to, if that person was detained. Specifically to take them out of the picture.
That's possible. Maybe they're in Mab's solar. Wait, wasn't one of the people described in Proven Guilty a shape changer? One of the people statues.
No. The only shape changer was the fetches.
Well, there was a trickster. That was a trickster god, right?
Oh, there was a Nancy. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't think he's traditionally like Loki, where it's like shifting in that way.
Okay. I don't remember the
what
stories
little
very
I
much.
remember of African mythology, which is basically nothing. But yeah, he's a trickster, but I don't think he's really a shifter.
Yeah. They do have a conversation about how Andorial can learn anything spoken or from the shadows, and that's why Mab is at max in order to make sure that the conversation is secure. Some places are secure, like the Carpenter house. Andorial does need to know where to look, but rest assured that he'll probably be watching Dresden the whole time.
The island too, now that he's awakened it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that should be safe. I like how that Justin pointed out a couple episodes ago that Andorial and Uriel are pretty much the same. They seem to be focusing on the same function on opposite sides.
Yeah, light of God and shadow of God.
Yeah, they're both spooks. But
I wouldn't be surprised if Andorial was kind of like a protege of Uriel's once before he became Lucifer's lieutenant. Or, Lucifer's protege because he's Lightbringer. Either way it works.
Right.
Okay. They develop the code with refer to them as wizard or saying game over when it's all done. And then because Harry doesn't know anything about Goodman Gray, he says things like, do you want me to really trust a stranger's professional integrity on the fact that he's a mercenary and he could be bought out? And Kringle says, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm asking you to trust mine. Which seems significant. I don't know.
Right.
Oh, considering all the help he's given him for free over the years now.
Yeah, he's kind of building up a good debt to the guy. Wonder when he's
Plus,
going to
it's
cash
not like
that in.
It's not like he's never
They're
worked
gifts.
with a mercenary who's good to his word before.
Not in Cole days. That was a favor. Harry owes him.
Yeah, but he owed him like a nickel, didn't he?
No, it's like a nickel and a favor.
No, I'm talking about Kincaid. And Kincaid's good to his word enough to literally kill the guy.
Oh, yeah.
He has a history working with supernatural mercenaries.
Right.
Yeah, being true to your word is a very important thing.
Well, yeah, but I think part of his concern was like, what if, Nicodemus pays more since, Harry's
Yes.
flat ass fucking broke, and then, it'd be like, yeah, you don't have to worry about that in this case. So, and especially because what appears to be the case anyway is that they're working in trade more than they're working for tangible goods because,
Yeah, he can't be bought in the same way another person can be bought anyway.
Right. that paying the rent might be some kind of like altruistic type of thing or something where he has to do good, quote unquote, just do some kind of good act every now and again to keep his autonomy.
Supernatural community service.
Right. So
he's on parole.
Right. It'd be like, oh, bummer, Nick. I just ran out of evil minutes, so I got to recharge the tank. So I got to help Harry on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So because
I do appreciate that if Nick had gotten to him first, he would have probably been. I mean, he can do all the bad he wants. He has to.
Binder was perfectly accepting once Gray says, "It's like Justin contracted me first." It's like, oh, okay, right. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. No. All right, we're basically at an hour, and we're at the start of chapter 45, where they start fighting a whole bunch.
Yes. Thank you for watching.
How many more do we got to go?
At least 7 chapters.
Woof. So 2 more shows.
No, the fighting part's easy because we're just going to talk about Harry being a hypocrite at that point. Then.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. All right, Ben. Sorry I interrupted you.
This has been a production of the Broken Jars Network, which does Dresden Files podcast and a whole bunch of other stuff, which we'll now plug. Support the Dresden Files podcast and the Broken Jars Network through the links down in the description below, and drive-through RPG stuff, and all that sort of thing.
A bit rusty.
Yeah, a little bit.
Delivery.
I think there's a Patreon too. I mean, just send me your credit cards. Send me a PM. Actual Atlas on Reddit. Send her your credit card details. Don't actually do that. We have also many other podcasts and fine productions for you to enjoy and peruse at your leisure. Oh, Broken Jars fans. Like High Fantasy, which is on hiatus. There's DMs Anonymous, which Andres is not here to plug.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay, which Andres is not here to plug anyway. There's also Sim Talk, a very professional simulation talk show about talking about simulations, professional like business, B2B sort of stuff, like high level discussion there. But there's also, of course, the professional podcasting we do here at the Dresden Files podcast. Did I miss any?
I can't remember.
It doesn't matter. None of them are on.
Right.
Oh. Well, thank you for watching
just
the
us.
Dresden Files podcast. It's been a wild ride.